Ohana. I hope you're all having a great week. For those of you visiting for the first time, hi, my name is Kai, and here on this channel we talk about all true crime cases that happen in the 808 state. So if you're interested in true crime and Hawaii, I highly suggest you join our Ohana and turn on all your notifications so that you don't miss any uploads. Before we jump into today's case, please remember that this video is intended to raise awareness, and this channel is intended for viewers 18 years old and today we're going to be talking about Maile Gilbert and the Maile Amber Alert. I know a lot of you are familiar with Amber Hangerman's story and how the Amber Alert was named after her and her situation. Well, Hawaii is a little unique in that our alert is actually named the Maile Amber Alert, and it's named in part with Amber Hangerman and also this little girl, Maile Gilbert. So we're going to talk about her story today. I was going to cover Amber Hangerman, but I looked on YouTube and there's a lot of creators that have already covered her story. So if you're interested and you don't know the story, please go ahead and check out one of the many videos on YouTube. So for this video, we're just going to be talking about Maile Gilbert. This is her story, so let's just start from the very beginning. Maile Gilbert was born in 1979 to parents Bruce Clifford Gilbert and Valerie Jeannie Gilbert. Now Bruce goes by the name Tip, and Valerie goes by the name Jeannie. So for purposes of this video, we're going to refer to dad as Tip and we're going to refer to mom as Jeannie. Now at the time of Maile's birth, she did have an older brother. I believe his name is Scotty, and he's about 2 years older than Maile. Maile was born on Oahu and she grew up in Kailua, which is a great little town on the east side of the island. Maile was a very, very special girl. Her parents simply adored her, and she definitely was the apple of their eye. She brought so much joy into the Gilberts' home, and although she was close to both of her parents, she was definitely a daddy's girl. The Gilberts had a perfect little family. You had dad and mom, and then you had a son and a daughter. And you know, that's what a lot of families wish for. They wish for a boy and a girl. And they were just living this great life, you know, in Hawaii, in Kailua, which is a very nice, you know, affluent town in Hawaii. Maile is described as a vibrant, fearless little girl. She loved to go kayaking with her dad and her brother. They would go kayaking in Kaneohe Bay and over to Coconut Island. And Maile's dad said Maile used to sit in the back of the kayak, crossing her legs and just laughing as the kayak bounced along the ocean. Maile would join her dad sailing on his sunfish. And before you knew it, Maile was beginning to swim 2 lengths of a pool underwater to prove to her dad that she was ready for scuba diving lessons. Maile loved to dance and sing, and she would often come home from school singing songs that she had learned earlier that day. It's no wonder that Maile wanted to be on TV when she grew up. Maile loved to dress up in her mom's clothes and put on makeup, as many little girls love to do. Maile is a sweet, loving, and free-spirited little girl. From what I read, I mean, she's definitely a cool little kid. I mean, 1 minute she's, you know, swimming underwater, trying to prove to dad that she's ready to go scuba diving lessons. I mean, a little girl wanting to go scuba diving, that's just amazing. And then the next minute, you know, she's playing dress up and putting on makeup. She's my kind of girl. When Maile was in kindergarten, she had learned about kidnappers in school. And when dad asked her what she would do if somebody grabbed her, Maile told her dad, quote, "Daddy, you know that scream? I'd use that on him," end quote. One day after school, Maile and her older brother Scotty was walking home when a truck pulled up by the two kids and offered them a joint and a ride. And when I say joint, I mean marijuana, weed, cannabis. So this truck pulls up to them, offers them a joint and a ride, and they scream no really loud, and they run to their grandmother's house. But it is from this moment on that Maile is very afraid of being kidnapped. And on August 25th, 1985, Maile's worst fear would come true. On Sunday, August 25th, 1985, Jeannie, who is again Maile's mom, she's 29 years old at this time, she has to go to work at Castle Medical Center. And Castle Medical Center is a hospital on the east side on Oahu. And Tip, who is 31 years old at this time, takes the two kids over to their new house in Kaneohe. See, the family was in the process of buying a new home in Kaneohe. They were going to take the kids over to the house on Sunday, and the paperwork for the Gilbert's new home was going to be finalized on Monday, the very next day. Tip's former partner and Scotty's godfather, a man by the name of Harold Scott, came over to the Gilbert's house and invited them to his birthday party that was going to be happening that night. So that evening, Tip takes the two kids over to the party, which is located at Ilivahi Loop in Kailua. Now, this party was a family gathering, and in Hawaii, it's very common when you go to a party and all the adults, everybody knows each other, and the children know all the adults. It's very common for the children to call the ladies aunties and to call the men uncles. It's out of respect, it's out of respect for your elders, and it's just a culture in Hawaii that we have grown up with. And even if you're not related to the person, if they're older than you and it's someone, especially if this person is close to your mom or to your dad, you're calling them auntie, you're calling them uncle, you're showing them that respect. This party was exactly like that. It was, all the aunties and all the uncles. Now in Hawaii, it's very common that when kids go to an adult party, and when I say adult party, I don't mean like X-rated party. What I mean by an adult party is that where it's an adult's birthday. That's what I mean when I say adult party. So when kids go to an adult party, it's very common in Hawaii. So the kids will all gather up and they'll go outside or, in the yard, wherever they have some big space. Play tag, they'll play chase, they'll play hide and seek. And the adults are conversing, they're eating, they're drinking, they're keeping their eye on their kids. But again, this is a family party with aunties and uncles. In other words, it's a safe space. At this party, Maile knew everybody at the party. She knew everybody at the party except for one person. Now, the party is going on, the kids are having fun, the adults are conversing, drinking, talking. Tip is outside talking story with all the other adults, and he's keeping an eye on the children, every so often, looking over. At about 9:45 p.m., towards the end of the night, towards the end of the party, Tip goes into the house to say his goodbyes, and he ends up chatting to someone for about 15 minutes. Here's another thing about Hawaii parties. It is very custom that before you leave the party, you go and tell everybody goodbye. You don't just dig out, don't just pull a Houdini and dig. Out of respect again, and it's a culture thing, you go and say goodbye to everybody, and that includes adults and the children. And then after he's done chatting with this person, he starts to call for Maile and Scotty. Now, he only could find Scotty, and when he was trying to find Maile, she was nowhere to be found. Now, obviously he's calling out for her. Scotty's probably looking for her. And then the other adults and the other children at the party are probably saying like, hey, who are you looking for? So Tip's saying, I'm looking for Maile. So of course, all the other adults and the children are going to say, oh, I seen her there. We were playing there. I saw her there last. So everybody at the party is looking for Maile. When Tip realizes that Maile is nowhere to be found, they also realize that the one person that Maile didn't know at the party is also missing. At this point, of course, Tip calls his wife at work to tell her what's going on. Tip calls Honolulu Police Department at 10:15 p.m. Honolulu Police Department don't arrive to the home until 11:30 p.m. Now, Tip is still at the Scott's house while Jeannie is home at the Gilbert's house waiting there just in case Maile shows up at home. Two people now that were missing from the party was 6-year-old Maile Gilbert and 25-year-old James Harold Loonsberry. James was an invited guest to the party, and he was invited to the party by the host, Harold. Now, Harold and James didn't know each other very long before the night of the party, but Harold knew James well enough to invite him to this party. Obviously, he thought James was, a nice enough person, a nice enough boy to invite him to this party. When police and detectives arrived to the Scott's home, after they questioned everybody, it doesn't take them long to figure out that James is the one who had abducted Maile. At around 3:30 a.m., police do stop James in his black Suzuki Jeep in Hau'ula, and when police question James about Maile, James confesses to abducting Maile and leads police to Maile. Unfortunately, by the time police get to Maile, Maile is no longer alive. Police find Maile's lifeless body in a shallow beach grave near Kaena Point. James Loonsberry is arrested and taken into custody. He's held on a $110,000 bail. James is charged with kidnapping, rape, sodomy, and first-degree murder. Now, of course, this news devastated the Gilberts, as it would any family. I mean, this is just a blow to their hearts. This was their precious, precious, sweet little innocent angel who didn't deserve any of this. And learning how to live without Maile would definitely not be easy for the Gilberts. Always being so very proud of his daughter, Tip says that when he looks at this portrait of Maile, he, quote, feels empty and alone, end quote. He misses her, he misses hugging her, he misses her running and jumping up into his arms. Maile was taken prematurely. She died before she could explore the family's new home in Kaneohe. She died before she could enter the first grade and get homework just like her older brother Scotty. She died before she was able to wear her rainbow bright costume that Mom had already planned out for Halloween. And she died before she could go scuba diving with her dad. An autopsy report reveals that Maile died of asphyxia due to the obstruction of the airway. Maile was sexually assaulted, she was sodomized, and she was choked and she was drowned. Maile was cremated and her ashes were scattered in Kaneohe Bay, which is said to have been one of Maile's favorite places to go. Now let's talk a little bit about this James character. James Harold Loonsberry was a 25-year-old laborer in masonry. He moved to Hawaii from Washington in 1984. James said that he moved to Hawaii to live life in the fast lane, which I have no idea what that statement even means, because he's got to be a genius to know that Hawaii is just the opposite of fast. Anyways, moving on. Now, at the time, James lived in Hau'ula and he basically just worked, from a job to job kind of basis. I guess James must have met some wealthy people here in Hawaii, because it is said that he got impressed with the healthy. He started to do cocaine, and again, cocaine is a rich man's drug. So he started to do cocaine, he started to increase his use of cocaine. At the arraignment, James's face seemed to be bruised. He had like 2 black eyes and his nose was bruised. Allegedly, James was in the police cell block from the time he was arrested to the time he was put in front of a judge. But apparently his face got black and blue. Now, I'm not condoning police brutality, but we can make an exception, right?
Anyway, moving on. After his arraignment, he was transferred to Oahu Correctional Center. While the charges were being read to him, James, he kept his eyes closed the entire time. When Judge Marcia Waldorf, anyway, when the judge asked him, James asked for a public defender for his case. In a written statement by James Loonsberry, he says that he had taken Maile Gilbert from the party to his Suzuki Jeep that night, and that he knew what he was doing to Maile would cause her harm. James said that he knew that he was going to force Maile to engage in sexual intercourse. Eventually, this case would not make it to trial because James does take a plea bargain. Now, if this case had gone to trial, one of the details that would be revealed is that James had killed Maile because after he had asked her if she would be able to, describe who he is, how he looks like, what car they were in, what car he drives, Maile said yes. This is the reason why he had chosen to murder Maile, because she would be able to identify him. And this is just so sad, and it breaks my heart because at the time of her death, Maile was just, 6 years old, and she is so innocent. She's just answering the question like an innocent, honest child does. And because of this, James actually kills her. But she's being a kid, and she's being so honest and so real and so raw. And her parents had probably taught her not to lie. So when he asked her, would you be able to, recognize me and describe me and describe what kind of car I drive, she said yes, because that was the truth, and she was just being real, and he killed her because of that. James Loonsberry pleads guilty to first-degree murder, first-degree rape, sodomy, and kidnapping. Another sad detail about the dialogue between James and Maile before she died. James said that Maile was crying and she was asking for her dad. And Maile was really, really close with her father, Tip. And that is just so sad. I can imagine a little girl scared, crying, just wanting her daddy. Ugh. Maile was cremated and her ashes were scattered in Kaneohe Bay, which is also located on the east side of Oahu. Her ashes were scattered in an area overlooking Coconut Island, which is said to have been her favorite place to visit.
We now call this Maile Point.
Tip and Jeannie Gilbert bring Lay to Coconut Island whenever they can to remember their daughter Maile.
She just was the love of our life. She was everything to us, and then in a heartbeat she was gone.
Maile was kidnapped from a family party in Kailua on August 25, 1985. Her killer is serving a life sentence.
I used to hate that she was the little girl who, but she'll always be the little girl who. People used to say, you know what, you need to get on with life. And to me, every day I got up, I put my feet on the floor, I was going on with life.
So what exactly is the Maile Amber Alert or the Maile Alert? How it works is that if a child is missing and in danger, you call 911, file a missing persons report. Okay, you'd provide the police with a recent photo and a detailed physical information about the child, what they were wearing, their hair color, their eye color, everything. Everything and anything you can think of about the child. And then you would also, if you had that information, you would give the 911 dispatcher the description of the suspect, the vehicle that they were in, the license plate, if you were able to get the license plate, just everything that you can think of that would help bring the child back home safely, and obviously to catch the suspect. So the Maile Amber Alert works very similar to emergency warnings when there is like severe weather. So the alert would hit a siren, it hit the radio stations, it would hit the television, social media, big digital electric signs that you see like this over the freeway.
Now, Miley's father, Tip Gilbert, on the Maile Amber Alert says, quote, "Losing a child is the hardest thing anyone has to go through. When Maile was missing, there were no words. There was nothing we can do. The parents that don't have closure do not have their children back. It doesn't get any better." End quote. And I know that his sentence is a little jumbled, but paraphrasing, basically what he's trying to say is that when his daughter went missing, there was nothing set up, there was no system set up where parents could call and, report their child missing and then statewide would alert the public. There was nothing like that back in the 80s. And so what I think Tip is trying to say was that, back then, he felt hopeless. There was nothing you could do. I mean, you can call the police and you can report your child missing, and you just got to get out there on foot or your car, or nowadays it's so different, and the alert is just goes out to the masses, quickly, efficiently, and it's just able to reach a wider audience. Maile Amber Alert, yes, it is named after these two little girls, but it's also an acronym, and it stands for Minor Abducted in Life-Threatening America's Broadcast Emergency Response. Now, in 2007, Lieutenant Governor Duke Aiona said, quote, "More than 3,000 children are reported missing in Hawaii every year," end quote. On Wednesday, September 19, 2007, Missing Children in Hawaii Day was officially recognized. And also on this day, the state of Hawaii tested the Maile Amber Alert system at 11:45 a.m. There are several qualifications that need to be met before an alert can be initiated. An alert is not initiated when there are things like runaway, custodial interference. And if you're not familiar with custodial interference, I'll just give an example. Let's just say that two parents share custody of one child, and mom has the child on Monday and is supposed to return the child by 6 o'clock p.m. every Monday. Now, 6 o'clock p.m. on Monday comes around and mom doesn't return the child. It's a case of mom is just running late, forgot to call, yada yada. And so that's custodial interference. Okay, she's supposed to return the child back to dad at a certain time, but when she doesn't, that's basically custodial interference. This is in situations where the child is still, on island or in state, the child is safe. It's different, okay? It's different when, let's just say, same situation, but then mom has a history of violent behavior or mental illness, or she's been known in the past to hurt the child. That's a little different. Now, when the child is in harm's way or immediate danger, obviously that's different. That is when the Maile Amber Alert would be initiated. The criteria is basically the child has to be 17 years or younger. There has to be sufficient information indicating that the child has been abducted and is in immediate danger. And of course, there needs to be sufficient information about the child and the abductor. Hawaii was actually the last state to implement the statewide Maile Amber Alert system. Hawaii does not have a death penalty, and I don't want to get too much into politics, but I gotta say, when it comes to crimes against children and serial killers, I do believe Hawaii needs the death penalty. I mean, how many times have we seen cases in Hawaii where people murder children, abuse children, torture babies, and then get away with it, or get 20 years and then they're up for parole? It's bullshit. Now, Tip didn't want his daughter's death to go in vain. Tip organized a group called the Independent and Search Rescue Unit, which was basically a group of volunteers that would help the police search for a missing person. Now, Tip said that in the event of, coordinating this unit when he would help search for a missing person, especially if it was a child, that it would bring him back to that night that he was searching for his own daughter, Maile. The Gilberts did end up having more children after Maile, and their names are Scotty, Maile, John, Blaine, and Mindy. And that's not in any order. Now, unfortunately, Tip was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and he did pass away on April 14, 2020.
All right, guys, that's all I have for you on this case. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!